This is the Chapter 3 lab, the probability game high-low. To complete this lab, you're going to need to have printed this document from Moodle. Make sure you have it handy. Typically when playing the game high-low, you play with a standard deck of 52 cards, excluding the jokers. In order to simplify the game and make our probability calculations a little bit easier, we're going to play one time with only 10 cards. So I've shuffled my deck, and I'm going to begin by pulling out 10 cards that we'll use. I'm going to place the other cards off to the side because we will not use those in game one. Now, I'm going to flip these cards over so that we'll know what cards we're playing with. And I'm going to put these in numeric order just because that will help us later on when we are calculating our probabilities. Now, on your document, I want you to take a moment to write these different cards on your on page 1 in those boxes. So we have a 2 of spades, a 3 of clubs, a 4 of clubs, a 4 of hearts, 5 of hearts, 6 of diamonds, 7 of spades, 8 of hearts, 9 of spades, and a queen of diamonds. You may need to pause the video to fill in your 10 spaces. Alright, now let's play the game. So those are the only 10 cards that we're going to use. There's some helpful hints for probability at the bottom of that page. But if you'll turn to page 2, we'll begin to play the game. So I'm going to start by just shuffling my 10 cards. Get those mixed up. And when you play the game high-low, we're going to start with our cards face down, and we're going to turn one card over at a time. So the first card is the 3 of clubs. So in the first column, I'm going to list the card, the 3 of clubs. Now, we need to figure out the probability that the next card is going to be higher. So if you'll look back at your sample space from page 1, I'm going to mark off the 3 of clubs. That'll help me when figuring out my probabilities. So the probability that the next card is higher, let's count how many cards are higher. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards that are higher. And then we're going to put in the denominator the total number of cards that are left. So I've marked the 3 out because that card's no longer in my sample space. Notice that there's a total of 9 cards. So the probability that the next card I flip over will be higher is 8 out of 9. And you can leave these in fraction form. Now let's figure out the probability that the next card is lower. So the probability that the next card is lower, there's only one card that's less than our 3 of clubs. So that would be 1 out of our total. There's 9 cards left. So 1 out of 9. Then we want to figure out the probability that the next card is equal value. Well, notice from our sample space there are no other cards with a value of 3. So the probability there is 0. That will not happen. There's no way that the next card will be a 3. So now we want to look at these probabilities to help us make an educated guess. So this is where the actual high-low part of the game comes in. So we're trying to decide, should we guess that the next card is higher or should we guess that the next card is lower? Well, look at your probabilities. The chances that your card is higher is much larger than the chances that your next card is lower. So I would guess that the next card is going to be higher. Now we will continue playing the game to determine if my guess was correct. So I'll go back to my deck of cards, flip over the next card, and the next card is a 4. So my guess was correct. So I'm going to put yes in that blank. If you happen to put that the next card was going to be lower, then you would need to write no in the last column. Now we'll continue playing the game. So the 4 of clubs is the next card. So you need to list it in row 2. And now I'm going to give you the opportunity to fill in the remainder of row 2. If you need to pause the video, you can, and then you can come back and start it. So take a second to fill those in. And then we're going to flip over the next card. The next card that you should write down is the 4 of hearts. So take a moment, fill in your probabilities, your guess, and answer whether your guess was correct or not. The next card will be the Queen of Diamonds. Again, fill in the corresponding row with your probabilities, your guess, and whether your guess was correct. One more time, the next card is the 9 of Spades. So fill in that row and then take a minute to answer the questions below. If you need to pause the video, you can do so. Now we're going to play game 2. This time we're going to play the game with all 52 cards. So I'll begin by shuffling the cards. Place the whole deck face down, and we're going to flip the cards over one at a time. First card we flip over is the 2 of Spades. I'm going to help you fill in the first row, and then you will fill in the remainder of your chart. So to help you out, I've listed your sample space up here at the top. I'm going to mark out the 2 of Spades. That just helps me when calculating my probabilities. You will find that the probabilities are a little more difficult to calculate this time. So let's begin by finding the probability that the next card is higher. So those would be the cards from 3 over here to the right. So we need to count how many cards there would be. So let's look at the spades. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cards. So we have 11 spades that are higher. There's 11 hearts that are higher, 11 clubs that are higher, and 11 diamonds that are higher. So that's 4 times 11 would be 44 cards. Out of, a deck has 52 cards. The 2 of Spades has been marked out, therefore our sample space now contains 51 cards. Now let's see the probability that the next card will be lower than a 2. My denominator is still 51. We still have 51 cards that we're looking at. Let's count how many of those are higher. How many of those are lower. So the cards that are lower, remember ace is considered low. It's like the number 1. So we have the ace of spades, the ace of hearts, the ace of clubs, the ace of diamonds. So there's 4 cards that are lower than our 2 of spades. Then we want the probability that the next card is equal. The denominator, still 51. Let's count the cards that are equal to the 2. So there's a 2 of hearts, a 2 of clubs, and a 2 of diamonds. So that would be 3 out of 51. Now we need to take an educated guess. So we're going to determine or make an educated guess on whether the next card is going to be higher, lower, by looking at our different probabilities. Notice that the probability that it's higher is much bigger than the probability that the next card will be lower. So my educated guess would be that the next card will be higher. Let's flip over the next card to see if my guess is correct. And I'm right. So I'm going to put yes, because the next card was higher. It was a 4 of spades. So take a moment now to fill in your probabilities, your guess whether the next card will be higher or lower, and then we'll continue with the game so that you can fill in whether your guess was correct or not. Feel free to pause the video if needed. The next card that we would flip over is going to be the 10 of spades. take a moment to fill in your probabilities and your guess. The next card is the 3 of clubs. Take a moment to fill in your probabilities. The next card is the Ace of Spades. The next card is the Ace of Hearts. The next card is the 10 of Diamonds. Flip to the next page and we'll continue the chart. We're going to flip over 3 more cards. The next card is the Ace of Diamonds. The next card is the Queen of Diamonds. The last card that we'll flip over for our chart is the 7 of Spades. Now, in the real game of high-low, we would continue playing until all 52 cards have been flipped over. For this lab, you need to just continue filling in your chart, answer the questions, and once you've finished answering your questions, you need to log into Moodle and go to the Chapter 3 Lab Answer Entry Sheet, where you will answer some questions that will come directly from this lab.